Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today I've got a fountain pen focus for you. The focus for today is going to be on this. This is a TWSBI Vac700R and this is in the iris pattern. I really like the looks of this iris pattern. It's quite unusual. Join me now down on the mat. We'll take a look at the pen. We'll compare it to some others, do some weights and measurements, a writing sample, then I'll give you my thoughts and some scores for this pen. Here we are down on the mat. Here we've got the TWSBI Vac700R iris. This is a vacuum filler. That's where the Vac name comes from. It's a demonstrator. I love demonstrator pens. As you can see, I've not got a lot of ink in here at the moment, but one of the things I really like to see is the ink sloshing around. I'm just going to do that a couple more times. I think that looks really nice. Let's take a look at the body. We start up at the top with the cap. Here we've got the TWSBI logo. Nice little dome to it. You can feel the plastic there. I think that looks pretty. We come down to the first piece of iris, and this is the clip. There's a clip band, just going to turn that around. So here I've got blues and I've got pink. We come down into the actual clip. Again, little bits of blue, predominantly pink though. It's a nice springy clip. The cap, it's transparent. Again, I like this demonstrative nature. We can actually see the nib there with the bit of the iris pattern. We'll look in a bit more detail in a second. But the cap, slowly tapering out till we get to just above the bottom of the clip. Then we've got the same width down until we get to this, again, iris coloured metal band. On there, we've got the word TWSBI. And as we go around, we've got Vac700R and underneath that Taiwan, made in Taiwan. Again, let's slowly turn this around. So at the front, we've got hints of blue, hints of green, a lot of pink. But as I turn it around, we've got some gold colour coming in there. And once again, we're back to the pinks and at the front. One of the things I've noticed with these Vac700Rs with other people that have got them and other reviews I've seen on YouTube is that the colouring seems to be fairly unique. It's not the same colour. So I think that's quite nice. So you've got a little bit of uniqueness in what you're holding and what you're using. Carrying on with the body, I'm going to say there's no drop off to the body. I can feel a little tiny bit of a lip, but I'm really feeling for it. So in normal use, you wouldn't see it. Here then we've got the body. It's actually tapering down to my eye, all the way down till we get to another iris coloured metal ring. And then we've got the blind cap. And this is what works the vacuum mechanism. I'm using this pen at home. So when I'm at home, I tend to leave this cap open. I can close it for transport because that seals off the nib. I'm just going to open this slightly. So if you can look here at the bottom of the body, you can see the black plunger inside. Then as I open this cap, you can see that plunger ever so slightly raising, and that's what lets the ink flow from the body down into the section. I say it's a vacuum filler. I'm not going to show it working because I've got ink in here. I don't want ink everywhere. But to fill it, pull out the plunger. What I then do is slowly push it down. As I'm pushing it down, it's creating a vacuum behind the plunger. And actually in the pen here, we can see when we get near the bottom of the body, the inside tapers out quite quickly. By tapering out, the plunger gets just past there. It releases the vacuum. The vacuum then sucks up through the ink and fetches ink into the body. One of the things I find with this pen, I usually can get at most about a half fill. I think there are ways you can fiddle around to get more in there if you want to, but for me, half fill, I'm quite happy with that because I like to change my inks quite frequently. top of that end cap, just so we can finish off the body, we've got some facets there. So again, it's just adding a little bit of interest to that. Let's take the cap off. So that takes half, one, about between 1 1/4 and 1 1/2 turns to take the cap off. And then that reveals the iris nib. So again, like with the rest of the body, we've got a bit of the iris pattern here on the top of the nib. This one, bit of blue, bit of yellow at the bottom, but primarily pink. We've got a little bit of decorative scroll work, breather hole, TWSBI logo, and then the word TWSBI. There's nothing on here that I can see which is indicating the size of the nib, but this is a broad nib. We come into the section. The section, very similar. We've got the iris pattern at the bottom. We've got a lip down here, which is made of one strip of the iris material. Then we've got plastic, which is the section. That seems to be the same width. It looks, to my eye, looking at it now, it might be concave, but it's not. It's very much one single straight line there. We've also got here at the bottom of the section, we've got some more of that iris band. All in all, quite nice looking, quite pretty. I'm now going to swap the view and fetch in my two standard size comparison pens. The pens I've brought in, my two standards, so we've got the Pilot Metropolitan and we've got the Lamy Safari. The Vac700R looks like it's a mid-size pen. It's certainly not a big pen, but it's a nice size and it's nice to hold in the hand. We'll look at it in my hand in a minute. Let's take the caps off these. With the caps off, slightly different story now. The TWSBI getting a little bit shorter in terms of looks. We can see here that it's a number 6 size nib compared to the other two nibs, which are quite small. Let's post the pens. Posted, again, the Vac700R, slightly longer than the other two. I find that I don't need to use it posted, it's got a nice length. Let's show you anyway in my hand. This is posted. If I take the cap off, it's a nice length anyway. And even though it is posting, it's not on there very tight. You can see the cap there wobbling about, and it does come off so easy. So yes, you could post it, but really wouldn't advise it. I'm going to swap over now and fetch in some pens that are in roughly the same price range. The pens that I've brought in, I've got an Opus 88 Coloro. That cost me 120 Aussie dollars. The Vac700R was 130 Aussie dollars. And I've also brought in a Ranga Model 5, and that was 142 Aussie dollars. Slowly turn this Model 5 round so we can actually see the nib. The Ranga and the TWSBI look like the number 6 nibs. Not sure with the Opus 88, it looks like it's a smaller nib, but that's something I've not really looked at because I've not tried to pull the nib out of it yet. The Opus 88, this is an eyedropper filler. So it's a little bit similar in the fact that we've got the vacuum here on the Vac700R. This is eyedropper, so I unscrew the section and I fill it with a blunt nose syringe. The Ranga, that's a cartridge converter, could be eyedroppered. And look at the size, that Ranga, I call that the big boy because it's just such a big pen. Let's take the caps off these and look at them unposted. Unposted, the TWSBI sits in between the two of these. It's a nice feel in the hand, as I've shown you, it fits really well. This Ranga, this Model 5, it's such a big pen, it really is. It dwarfs everything else that I've got. Let's pop the caps on. With the cap on, the TWSBI just a little bit longer than what we see there with the Opus 88. Let's move these out of the way and do some measurements and some weights. Here we've got my trusty rule of measurement. We'll fetch in the pen. So with the cap on, this comes in at 14.7 centimetres. Uncapped, that comes in at 13.2 centimetres. Posted, as I said, does not post very well. That comes in at 17.2 centimetres. And as I say, This just comes off so easy. I know it was a little bit violent there with my shake, but just demonstrates the point. Let's get this out of the way and fetch in the scales of weighing. So here we have the scales of weighing. Bear in mind there's a little teeny bit of ink still in the pen. So the full pen, that comes in at 36 grams. Just the cap, 12 grams. And just the body, 22 grams. Not sure how 12 and 22 add up to 36, but you've just seen me do the weighing there. Let's get this out of the way and fetch in the notepad of testing. Here I've got my notepad of testing. This is Ayush paper. It's 100 GSM paper, made in India. Really nice and fountain pen friendly paper. So here we've got the pen. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure I open up the blind cap so the ink can flow really well. If I didn't do that, what I would end up doing is just writing out what's in the section and then the pen would stop writing. So we've got here a TWSBI Vac700R. This is Iris. And it's got a broad nib. Cost me 130 Aussie dollars. The ink is Pelikan Edelstein Garnet. Drying times. So we got immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. After a minute, yeah, get a little bit of a smudge, but it's not worth doing a 2-minute test. Go to move the mic down to the paper so you can hear the pen writing. Hopefully you could hear that over the wind. It's a very windy day here at the moment and I can certainly hear it. Hopefully the mic though cuts it all out for me. It's a nice writer. It's nice in the hand. As I said, it fits really well. I'll show you that there. There's a nice little bit of feedback to it. I like pens with the tiniest amount of feedback so I can get the tactile nature. To me, part of the enjoyment of writing is that tactile, that feeling of the nib on the paper. And with this Ayush paper, it's got a little bit of texture to it, so it feels so nice when I'm writing. Let's see if there's any line variation. So the first, that's no pressure. Now I'm going to add some pressure. It's definitely putting down more ink, and the line does look a little bit wider, but not a lot. I mean, it's a steel nib. If I do my S's there. And then I'm going to do my scribble. Flow keeps up really well. So what are my thoughts on this pen? We're going to start with pen looks. I love this iris colour. I think it looks different. A very personal choice here. I would have liked to have seen one with more green than pink. I know it's very personal. And green, I just love greens, which is why I'd like to have seen it. I love the fact it's a demonstrator. You know, we can see the ink there. Not that there's a lot of ink at the moment. I love we can see the nib with a cap on, especially because it's got that nice iris finish on it. The pen, as I said, it's a nice length. Fits well in my hand. Doesn't post that well. Not bothered. I don't usually post pens anyway. But unposted, I find this really comfortable. It fits nicely. I would have liked if the section had have been slightly wider. To me, it just feels a little bit narrow. But again, as I often say, personal choice. All in all though, nice looking pen. In terms of pen looks, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. Writing experience, well, as we've seen, it's nice, it's consistent. I've used a number of different inks in here. Here's some examples. So this is 52 GSM Tomoe River paper. And as you can see here, I've got Lamy Crystal Rhodonite. The reason I used this, my daughter said to me, I bet you'll never use a pink ink, so I had to prove her wrong. And then I've also got here with this Pelikan Edelstein Garnet, just to show you it here on this Tomoe River paper. This is a good one to actually look at. I see some nice shading coming through when I'm writing on here. All in all, the really nice writer. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Ink flow. No problems with ink flow, no hard start, no skipping. Only issue I do have is when I forget to open this valve. And that's why I said at home I generally leave it open. When I'm out and about, yes, I do close it up. And then I have to make sure I remember to open it before I start writing. I've left this pen a number of weeks between use. It's actually a deliberate test, but I've left it nearly 2 months. Picked the pen up, it started writing straight away. Very consistent. Ink flow, going to give it an 8 out of 10. Value for money. It's a nice pen. I really enjoy it. It writes well. It looks nice. It feels high quality, but there's a lot of plastic in it. It's a good workhorse pen. I will be honest, there are other pens in this price range which I do think look nicer. That Opus 88 Coloro, I much prefer the look of that to this. The Ranga, it's a big pen, but I like the acrylic on there. But then it's not a demonstrator. So it's like everything. You've got your pluses and you've got your minuses. In terms of value for money, I'm going to give this also an 8 out of 10, which means the total score is 8 out of 10. So this is my fountain pen focus on the TWSBI Vac700R Iris with Pelikan Edelstein Garnet ink. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Have you got one of these Vac700Rs? Have you got another TWSBI pen with this iris pattern? I know they've just released the Diamond 580. Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Hit that thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.